This is part 3, section 2 of our Vectorworks 2021 drafting tutorials. In this section, we'll look at creating and placing custom lighting positions. Specifically, it's going to be our box booms. Now, box booms are a little tricky in that they need to be represented two ways on the drawing. We're working in a plan view, so there needs to be a representation of where the position falls in space. However, since plan view is looking directly down, we can't see how the fixtures are hung on the position, so we need to create an elevation view of it as well. So we're going to start by creating the plan view, and then we'll move on to the elevation, and I think it'll make more sense as we move on. So I'm going to open my Laughter on the 23rd Floor file that I've been working in, and I'm going to zoom in on my origin point, 0, 0, where plaster line and center line intersect. And from my basic tool palette, I'm going to select the circle. Short key is the number 6. And I'm going to come up to my toolbar here and verify that radius mode is selected. I want to be working off of the radius as the origin, not the diameter. Once I've got that selected, I'll move to that origin point, grab the midpoint of that plaster line, and click and drag to start my circle. Tab into my floating display bar and give it a radius of 1 inch. There it is, and I'll click to finish. Now I've got a circle that's 2 inches in diameter that's right on my 0, 0 point. Keep in mind 2 inches is the standard diameter of pipe that we use in the theater, so that's what we're looking for. And before we move on, I'm going to change a couple of things about this circle. So I'm going to come up to the Attributes palette, and in the fill color, I'm going to make that black. And I'm going to change the line weight to 10 mil. Okay. So now I need to move it in position. Obviously, my box boom isn't going to be on my 0, 0 point. So I've got that selected. And I'm going to go ahead and move it. So Command M for move. And I'm not going to move it 2 feet. I'm going to move it 23 feet, 5 inches on the x-axis. And the y-axis is going to be minus 5 feet, 6 inches. Okay, zoom out, and here is the new location of where my box boom is going to be in the space. So I need to do a couple more things to finish the plan view of this position. I'm going to go grab my rectangle from the basic tool palette. The shortcut is number 4. And I'm going to draw a horizontal rectangle that is 4 feet long and 2 inches high. So again, I'm going to click once and drag, tab in and tell it that delta x is 4 feet, tab again and tell it that delta y is 2 inches, enter and click to finish. So I now have a 4-foot rectangle that is 2 inches high, again 2 inches being the diameter of our pipe. So I need to rotate this so it's at more of a 45-degree angle to our space. So with it selected, I'm going to come up to Modify, Rotate, and select Rotate. And I get this new dialog box, and its angle is going to be 45 degrees. This may default to 0. Either way, we're just going to change it and type in 45, click OK, and there's my pipe at a 45-degree angle. So in reality, this pipe is connected to the vertical pipe over here that we already drew. So I'm going to zoom in until I can grab my center right smart point, and I'm going to drag it over to my circle until it intersects right there and let go. And now I have that pipe coming off of our vertical pipe at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to go ahead and select both of these, just draw a marquee around them, and I'm going to group these objects, so Command G, and now those are all grouped as one thing. And that is the plan view for our box boom of where that's going to live in the physical space. So next we need to create the elevation view of it so that we can see how the lights are actually meant to be hung on that position. So again, I'm going to start with my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle that is 17 feet 6 inches long and 2 inches high. So tab in, 17.6 on my delta X, delta Y is 2, enter, click to finish, and there's my pipe. So this represents the vertical pipe that is our black circle. So the next thing we need to do is represent our actual hanging pipes, which is this rectangle that we drew. So I'm going to once again activate my rectangle tool, and from the bottom right smart point, I'm going to draw a new rectangle that is going to be -2 inches on the delta X and -4 feet on the delta Y. Enter, click to finish, and there's the pipe that represents this pipe in the elevation view for hanging the fixtures on. There's actually going to be 5 more of these, so we need to go ahead and duplicate and make those. You could do this one of 2 ways. You could go ahead and do a duplicate array, or in this instance, I'm just going to click on this and say Command D to duplicate, Command M to move, and I'm going to move it -2 feet on the X-axis. We're going to move it 0 on the Y-axis. We don't want it moving up and down. Click OK, and there's my new pipe. I'm going to do that 4 more times. And there are the 6 pipes that are going to be representing my box booms of where I can actually hang my fixtures. So I need to group all these together. So once again, I'm going to draw a marquee around all 7 of those rectangles till they're all selected, and Command G to make a group out of them. And then I need to turn this into an actual symbol so that Vectorworks can then convert it into a hanging position. Right now, it's just a series of rectangles grouped together. So we'll come up to Modify and Create Symbol. And I get a new dialog box here. And so I'm going to tell it that the name of this symbol is BoxBoom 1. And I want its insertion point to be on my next mouse click. So I'm going to determine exactly where the insertion point of that position is going to go. The rest of this is fine. We can click OK. And I need to zoom in on the left center smart point of this rectangle and click once. And I've established the insertion point. So a new dialog box will pop up, which is Vectorworks asking me where I want to place this symbol. And it's not in any of these things. This is a hanging position, so it's not a container, a label legend, or a title block style. So I'm going to tell it that I want to create a new folder. And the name of my new folder is going to be Hanging Positions. And we'll click OK. There it is, and it's already selected. So I'm going to click OK. And now that symbol has been placed in that folder in the resource manager. So if I come up here and I select Laughter on the 23rd Floor, and I go into my hanging positions, there's my box boom number 1. So we have a symbol there that is our box boom, but Vectorworks still doesn't know that it's a hanging position. So much like we did with the overhead electrics and the front of house, we're going to need to convert that. So we're going to say Spotlight, Object Conversion, Convert to Hanging Position. It's going to ask me about this geometry. It's perfectly fine. We'll click Yes. And the name of this position is going to be Box Boom 1 Left. And we'll click OK. That pops up. I can go to my Object Info palette. It now knows that this is a hanging position. That is my Box Boom 1 Left. It's not quite in the right spot though, so we're going to zoom in here until I can grab my insertion point of that, and I'm just going to drag it right over and connect it to the center right of that circle. So now we know that this is the elevation view of this plan view of that position. The last thing that I'm going to do is move this label down here so it just makes a little bit more sense in terms of referencing what that position's name is. So we can click on that once and it gives me a little blue box up here. And when I get those two arrows, I can click on it once and then just bring my mouse over here and say, I want it to be right there. Boom. And now my position label has been moved more towards the origin of the position, and it's a little bit easier to read and to reference. Obviously, if there is a box boom 1 left, there's probably going to be a box boom 1 right. So we need to go ahead and mirror that. So I'm going to grab just the group that referenced the plan view of the box boom, and I'm going to mirror it, selecting mirror in my basic tool palette, and we'll mirror it across center line. So we'll click once, hold to lock in that direction, click again, and there is my new plan view of my box boom on the stage right side. So now we'll go ahead and insert the symbol that we created earlier. So I'm going to go up to my resource manager, again, selecting laughter on the 23rd floor and my hanging positions. Here's my box boom number 1. So I'll double click on that to activate it, and it knows that I have that symbol. So I'm going to zoom in on my new box boom right until I can grab the center left smart point, and I will click once to set that point, and then I'm going to drag my mouse to the left holding shift until I get the note that it is horizontal, and I'll click again to place that symbol. Now if we zoom out, we can see that our box boom is not in the correct orientation as it is over here, so we need to move this. Easy enough with it still selected. We're going to come up to modify, rotate, and flip vertical. Click that once, it's going to rotate it. There it is in the correct orientation. And so now I just need to grab that insertion point again and bring it down to the center left smart point of the circle. And there it is. Yet again, this is just a symbol, right? If I come up to my object info palette, it's simply a 2D symbol. It's not 2D, 3D because we haven't given it any three-dimensional information. It's just two-dimensional. But we still need to tell Vectorworks that it is a hanging position. So once again, we're going to go to Spotlight, Object Conversion, Convert to Hanging Position. Yes, this is fine. And we're going to tell it that this is going to be box boom 1 right. And click OK. With it selected in my object info palette, I can see that it is now a hanging position and it is box boom 1 right. And just like we did on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and grab the position name and just move it down over here to a spot that makes a little bit more sense. Click off in some empty space to deselect that, and there are my first 2 box booms inserted. I'm going to go ahead and fit to page and save my file, and we'll move on to the next section, which is going to be editing these symbols a little bit further and creating the other set of box booms.